I love steak, but to be honest, if you make it the same way every single time, it can get a little bit boring.
Don't get me wrong, I love to eat steak the simple way with salt, pepper, and butter, but sometimes I just want something extra on top of the beefiness. I'm also pretty sure I've tried every popular steak sauce out there, so I took it upon myself to invent some new steak sauces which were heavily inspired by my experience with Chinese cooking. In this video, I'll show you my preferred method of cooking steak, as well as the results of my sauce experiment. I'm improvising the sauces as I go, so I'm just hoping these don't taste like hot trash.
But how did they turn out? Let's go find out.
I got so lucky and found these dry-aged American wagyu ribeyes on sale at my local grocery store. Just look at the marbling. The eye of fat's a little big for my liking, but I'd be greedy to complain about these steaks. I like to dry brine my steaks a day before so the salt penetrates deep into the steak for an even taste. Generously coat all sides of the steak with coarse sea salt, put it on a wire rack, and let it chill in your fridge for a day or two. A day later, the steaks should be noticeably darker and drier on the surface. Let it rest at room temperature for a bit, then I'm gonna pop in my trusty meat thermometer and put these in the oven to reverse sear. I always reverse sear my steaks unless they're less than ½ an inch thick. I'm really picky when it comes to gray bands, and I like to minimize that as much as possible. Pop it into the oven at 250 degrees Fahrenheit and let it slowly cook to your desired doneness. In the meantime, I'm gonna prep some aromatics and garnishes for the sauces. Slice a couple pieces of ginger, and finally dice an onion. No need for anything Michelin star level, cause I'm gonna strain these anyways. Next, finally dice some chives as garnish. If you don't have a mortar and pestle for this next part, just pop the peppercorns into a plastic bag and beat it with a rolling pin. I'm using a 2-to-1 ratio of 2 tablespoons black peppercorn and 1 tablespoon Sichuan peppercorn. This first sauce is inspired by the classic French Poivre peppercorn sauce, but instead of creamy and peppery, it'll be spicy and numbing. Roughly grind it up, it doesn't have to be more fine than this. By this time, our steaks are just about ready. I usually like to pull my steaks out at 128 degrees internal, but I'll let this get to 130 since the meat is so well marbled. I know these look atrocious right now, but let it rest for about 20 minutes, then we'll give these a sear for color and flavor. While we let these rest, let's make our experimental sauces. For the first sauce, I started out by searing some pork belly I had in the freezer since I'm making the sauce before I sear the steak, so I won't have the steak fat to saute the onions in. I'm hoping the pork will bring in some extra flavor. Please ignore the pork sticking to my cast iron. I got lazy with seasoning the pan last time I used it. I'm gonna let this cook until golden brown and the pork fat is rendered, then I'll add in the chopped onions and cook until soft and fragrant. The base of the sauce will be broad bean paste. You can get this spicy and savory sauce from most Asian grocery stores. Cook until fragrant and the red oil is simmering. Then I'm going to add in a tablespoon of cognac to deglaze the pan. I'll give it a quick flambe to burn off the alcohol's harshness. Then we can add in some soy sauce and chicken stock. Once it comes to a boil, we'll let it reduce a bit. Then strain out all the solids so the sauce isn't chunky. At this point, turn the heat off and slowly mix in some cold butter. Otherwise, the sauce won't combine with the butter and you're left with an oily mess. Once combined, we can add in our peppercorn mix, as well as a generous sprinkle of MSG. And who doesn't love cumin in their beef? To balance the sauce, I like to add a bit of acid, and then finish off with some salt for flavor. For something improvised as I shot this video, this sauce looks pretty damn good. Set this aside and we can start our next sauce. For the second sauce, I wanted to recreate the taste of braised pork belly. We'll start by sauteing some sugar with some leftover pork fat on super low heat until caramelized, then add in, bear with me here, half a can of Coke. I got this idea when making my braised chicken wings video you can watch up here, but basically the sweetness really complemented the fatty meat, so my curiosity forced me to try this with a fatty steak. Let the Coke boil and reduce, then add in a sprinkle of MSG, some Chinese 5-spice powder, half a stick of cinnamon, some salt, soy sauce, the ginger we sliced earlier, a bay leaf, and star anise. Same drill as last time, strain it once reduced, then slowly mix in cold butter. Once done, it's time to head out to sear our steaks on a grill because I don't want to set off my apartment's fire alarm. Since the steaks are already cooked to perfection, I'm gonna blast these steaks on a ripping hot grill to get a nice crust. I have to admit, I was so preoccupied with trying to get good shots of the steak that I left these on the grill for too long and developed too much of a gray band for my liking. Rookie move due to my lack of experience behind a camera, but we live and learn, and I'll redeem myself next time. Despite all my screw-ups, the steak still looked insane. But how does it taste?
I know everybody fakes reactions on social media, but that is hands down the best steak I have ever made. I think sometimes when you eat really well marbled meat, the richness kind of takes it away from me. I can't eat too much, but the spiciness and the acidity from the vinegar like cuts that back and adds like another like 10 dimensions of flavor on top. So that's like mind-blowingly good. Okay, now for this one, my hopes are a little lower, but here we go. Honestly, better than I expected, but I think I'd add a little more sugar next time. It didn't really come through too much. I think the soy sauce and the saltiness kind of masked it a little bit, but it kind of does mimic the braised like pork belly flavor. So you just basically kind of have that braised sauce on top over like a nice steak. So it's actually surprisingly tasty. I mean, not as good as this one, but honestly, not bad. Yeah, I gotta have another piece of this. Am I really gonna eat this much steak at 11 p.m.? I'm getting the meat sweats later.
After all that meat, I didn't fall asleep until 4 a.m. Worth it.
If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing. It would really help me push out more videos like this in the near future. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.